All right. So let's dive right into it. Lion Flood, your podcast host, coach, and content creator. Today, I'm going to be talking about 5 quick wins for starting to be a podcast guest. Why is that important? Because if you want to be a guest on another podcast, you need to learn some of the ins and outs of some quick things to be able to do. One of the main things I'm going to say is a soundbite. Look at some of the TV shows and news programs. They work to have sound bites. What is that? Quick, succinct answers that you give so that you're not going on for a long period of time. So let's jump into a few of those and see what we're looking into, right? All right. So again, 5 quick wins for starting to be a guest on a podcast. One of the great things about this is when we're going to be doing that to starting today, these are things that you can implement right away, right? Not some things that you're going to take forever to have to be able to get into, but things that you can do right away to help you show up and be the best podcast guest. So take notes, grab a pen, paper, whatever you need, take notes so that we can make sure that you're getting this information. Number one, you need to determine why for being a podcast guest. What's your why for being a guest, right? There are many wrong reasons for wanting to be a guest on podcasts, like these, for example: trying to sell your product or service, trying to grow your influence or celebrity status. Most people say, hey, what the heck, why waste my time? Then podcasting is all about two things: developing know, like, and trust factors. It's one of the most important things. People know you, like you, they trust you, they want to listen to you more, and positively impact the lives of people who listen to you. Your goal should be to seek to be a person of value, not a person of profit. Don't show up to sell something, show up to serve people and ultimately change someone's life for the better. For the listens, people who listen, I encourage you to sit down and get your mindset right about why you're getting into podcasting. To sum that up, is just don't be a me person, a selfish person. Be there for the people, and the people will be there for you. Oh man, that's a quote. I should write that down someplace. Be there for the people, and the people will be there for you. All right. Number two, create an ideal listener that you ultimately want to speak to. It's your avatar. It's what most podcasters call it. Take time to define, create an avatar of who you always want to be speaking to on podcasts. Then only go to podcasts that have that type of listener. You should develop your stories, experiences that you share in a way that you can share them that will impact your avatar that you've created. Your job is to change the life by them hearing you speak on a podcast. I encourage you again, take time and take this seriously. It will always help you to get on the right podcast and avoid the wrong ones. Before getting on the show, ask yourself, would my avatar listen to this show? If the answer is no, don't go on the show. If it's yes, go for it, right? Summary: what it means is your perfect listener is what my coach always taught me to call it: avatar, perfect listener. Who are you speaking to? Who is that person? If they would not be on a podcast that's maybe dealing with health, weight loss, or something like that, and you're selling um, a product that has nothing to do with that, there's no need to be on that type of podcast. So it's not just I want to be on 50 podcasts and that's going to help me my listenership grow. It's about being on the right podcast for the right type of people. Number three, come up with your default answers to bad questions from hosts. There are going to be some, right? I know it may sound rude, and I certainly don't mean it that way. I just want to help you prepare. Many hosts ask really bad questions. The same way as we're working to get you to be a good guest, there are hosts that needs to be good hosts, and they just aren't. You need to be ready to answer them in a way that will actually serve the audience. The worst question you will be asked is this: tell the listeners about yourself. You need to come up with a 1 minute response to this that is interesting and informative to the listeners. The next bad question is: where can listeners find out more about you? This is your singular CTA, call to action, which we'll get into in the future point. But listen for other bad questions. Find a way to turn it back to the host in a way that can be a much better question. to serve the listeners. And I'll give you some pointers of those. And those are things that we go over in our e-community group as well to teach people and to show them some different ways of working to help to get better. So let's keep going. There's only two more. So I told you this is quick and simple. Start off using the right gear so that your host will take you seriously. Podcasters, guests, this is for you as well. Podcasters invest in equipment to make them sound better, mics, all kind of things. Guests, you should do the same thing. One of the worst things before I start into reading that is if I tell people who want to be guests is to use your internal mic, that echo, that sound. It makes the audio horrible on the other end. But many people who want to get into podcast guesting don't invest in the proper setup. This hinders them from getting on shows or creates a bad experience for listeners if they do get on the show. Highly encourage you to make the minimal investment of a good microphone and a camera. Get your background right. Avoid the use of virtual backgrounds. Don't get me started on that. We could talk about that one a little bit later, as it immediately creates a subconscious level of mistrust. People don't know where you are. I'm not asking you to spend $10,000 on a setup or even 1,000. You can get everything you need top line under $500, right? Bonus hit point here is you can sell this gear for what you bought it for. So if you decide podcasting guesting isn't for you, you can just sell it. But you need to take the same level of, like, I want to be great in your guesting as you do in your business, as you do in your company, right? Make sure people understand who you are and what you're about. And last but not least, we want to build a media one sheet for podcast hosts. What is that? A media one sheet is a single page expanning everything on a podcast host would need to know about you and what you talk about. Many people use PDF. I recommend creating a digital one sheet, a web page in a sense, so that you can just send the link to the host. They should be able to contain everything from photos, bio, links, and even ideas for topics and questions you're ready to answer. The idea is that hosts should be able to look at the page and not have any questions for you. This should be ready to interview on a topic you want to cover. In simple words, you need to ensure that you are working to elevate yourself to that next level. If you're going to be a guest, you want to shine because you're trying to get the podcast listeners to come to your store, to come to your business, to use your services. Maybe you have an e-commerce business and you want to sell, right? But if you're not sounding like you're great, then people are going to assume that your product may not be great as well. So those are just a few things to help you become a better podcast guest. Again, if you have any questions, make sure you reach out to me at lionflood.com. That's LionFLUDD. I appreciate you for taking the time and listening. Again, this episode is being brought to you by Ecamm. Yes, you should become a part of the Ecamm fam, the most powerful streaming podcast content creating service out there. Thanks again. Enjoy the rest of the day. And remember, keep living while you are alive.